All this. We're gonna call this meeting to order the Building and Planning Committee. And approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any questions or anything on the agenda? Anything that needs to be changed or accepted as presented?
On the master plan and updates, we can talk about whatever we want to on the building, right?
Yeah, it's always
Okay.
this discussion.
Motion to approve agenda. I'll second.
Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Fred. At this time, we'll take any public comment.
We have to vote.
Oh, that's action item. Okay.
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Ross?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just making sure that everybody knows who they are. G?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm a yes. Okay, in public comment, I didn't see anybody from the public on there.
Is anybody?
Just us, it looks like. Okay. So then, we're going to do the approval of minutes from January 30th. And that's pages 2 through 4. If anybody has any changes or if it can be approved as distributed.
I'll move that.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept as presented. I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Fred. Thank you, John. Any questions or anything? Okay. I'm gonna try to act like I can use this pen with my left hand. Okay, on item E. Oh, we gotta vote. I always forget that. Fred?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Ross?
Aye.
Yes.
I spoke for
I got everybody confused. That's really good.
Okay,
Yes.
yes for me also.
John?
Yes.
So then I'm a yes. You guys are killing me. Thank you very much. Number E, letter E, project update discussion.
Okay, so. I'm assuming you've all looked at my status project update from a week ago. But I have a few things to add. On the master plan, you know, as you can see, it should kick out of the fourth plan review on April 1st. By then. We don't know if that'll be approved or if they will request some more changes and one more go around. But that's the date that's, because architectural is not approved yet, electrical is not approved. Fire life safety is not approved, but structural is approved and mechanical is approved and pharmacy functional program is approved. So we're halfway there. The FEMA grant, they sent some questions for me to respond to. And they were only on the environmental and historic preservation portion of the FEMA grant. So I don't know if we're going to get questions for the other sections. There's like 6 sections to the application. It was all easily answered stuff. The questions literally were, please provide a list of potential disposal locations for the debris from the demolition work. So I gave them the addresses of the places in Bakersfield that take all the recycling of construction materials. Describe the vehicles and equipment anticipated to be used. And estimated work hours. I said vehicles will consist of contractor pickup trucks, estimated 4 to 6 at any one time. Small skip loaders, excavators, backhoes for footings, etc. Work hours 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Third question was describe how the project area would be accessed, including whether existing parking and or hospital access would be changed temporarily during construction. If new access to construction area is needed, please provide details regarding this work. So I just basically explained that in some of these phases, we would shift like administration's parking over to over there while we did the new drop off area here and created the new administrative lot. And, you know, and then I included drawings of each of these phases. And then as Question 4 was please provide staging and stockpile locations, including size and coordinates. So I gave them the dirt lot across the street, the coordinates of those corners. I gave them a Google map with that outlined in red, and also the Leho property on the backside of the building that's dirt between the church and the accounting building, because we have spoken to him about leasing it or something if for the construction project. So gave him the coordinates of that. And so that was question 4. Question 5, because the hospital is over 45 years old, it would need to be evaluated for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. If it has not been previously evaluated, please provide documentation and provide details of the original hospital construction and any alterations over time. This may include original plans from the 60s, as well as district records like annual reports or long-range planning documents. Information will be used to understand the potential cultural and historical impacts of the project on the existing building. So basically, I responded that there's 25 locations in Kern County that are on the National Historical Register. There's only one here in the Kern River Valley, and it is a Indian village site in South Lake. That's the only one. And then there's 4 criteria. If you want to submit something to be on the National Register, there's 4 criteria, and we don't meet any of the 4. So I just made a statement. I listed each of the criteria and say we don't meet any of these. And so that was my response to them on that. Question 6 was please provide any previously prepared California Environmental Quality Act documentation that Kern County may have on file for the project or projected area. So I referenced the Kern River Valley specific plan. It's EIR 05-05 that covers all the entire Kern area and the valley here, Kern River Valley. And then we had Karen Northcutt do an environmental report for categorical exclusion back towards the beginning of this project. So I forwarded that to them, stating it does need to be updated because the scope of work from that document to our current is a smaller scope of work. So, we probably will need to go ahead and get Karen back and have her just update that, and then we will get it submitted to the county. But I was waiting for someone to say they wanted to see that. So it's I didn't print it out because it's
She's out of
160.
town, right? Didn't she leave?
No, she retired,
Still working.
but I've talked, she's semi-retired. She's still working. We've talked with her. She's very happy to do
What
this
she
job.
did was for those mobile homes you guys were gonna.
No, it was for when we were gonna do the medical office building and an expansion of the acute care out on the front lawn. And a renovation and seismic upgrade of the existing building. That was back at like Major Q. So it's a 160-page document. It just needs to be updated and the scope reduced and some verbiage changed. So we probably are gonna need to proceed with having her do that. So that was.
Not until they tell us that we have.
Well, yes. In other words, I sent it to them with an
Yeah.
explanation, and we'll see what their response is. If they want it updated to be current and submitted to Kern County.
When we basically as a board approve the construction and hire a contractor, we're subject to CEQA and we need to make that finding. So we might as well move forward with it.
That's why I say we may need to.
We're gonna have to do it at that time.
Right. And what I can do is I could get Karen to have her give us an idea of what the costs would be, and it could come to the next meeting, and then we could approve proceeding with having her do it.
Yeah.
And because I made a statement in there, it says we are planning to update the attached EIR document to properly show the reduced scope of the current project. See attachment document 5, environmental report for category exclusion. And I had to send all these documents in multiple emails because some of these documents, one document alone was as big as our email system can handle. But she got them all and she sent back a response. Thank you very much. I got everything. She goes, thank you for being really organized and everything spelled out exactly.
Right.
So, every attachment references exactly which question and responses. So that's been done. So that is what we're at on FEMA. I have not gotten a request for any of the other sections at this point.
That's promising. I'm glad they're
Yeah.
still considering it.
Yeah.
Probably
Well,
doing
who is-
something with us.
Who is that at FEMA that asked those questions?
I don't get a name. I just get a document that
Is
has
that
the
the document you
questions.
got?
Yeah.
From them? Could I
Sure.
get?
Absolutely. And it's a document that then I can just fill in my responses on.
Correct.
And then I send it back to the lady at Cal OES. And actually I had a phone conversation with the people from FEMA and Cal OES. We reviewed all the questions. We put together what their expectation of the responses were. I did that and they accepted them first time and said they look great. So. All right.
Along with the comment that they wished everybody had done it.
They wish most of their people that put in for grants was as organized and concise and did everything like.
Beats the heck out of the state. We're not in fourth review.
Yeah, but I think you've seen some of the comments. Some of them are just so ridiculous. It's just. I've been dealing with OSHPD plan reviews for 5+ years. Yeah, all right. So that is, yes,
Okay, probably this is probably more too. Let's say we get to 21 million.
Mhm.
That's 75% or what is it, 70%? Oh,
okay, the FEMA grant is 35 million
okay, 35.
Yeah.
But it's a percentage of.
or
the total project.
32 million. I'm terrible with
32, I think
numbers.
it
I think
was.
it's 32 million.
It's a percentage of the total project.
Correct. We
Yeah,
contribute
the-
a portion of that.
What,
The construction, the company that did us our construction cost estimate has it at 21 million. And that it's not just that, it's spread out over 4 or 5 years and it has 6% escalations in for the phases of the work as it goes through. But the construction cost, when it goes out to bid, hopefully come in at the 21. The additional 11 million covers inspectors and construction management and FEMA grant management and all the things that go along with a construction project.
what I'm getting is how much money do we have to come up with?
9.2 million, 9.2 million.
Okay,
Okay,
we've got that.
we've got this
Yes.
in the bank.
Bank.
Yes.
And then it's like.
So if we get the FEMA grant and the project comes in at the bid that we hope it comes in at, which is professionally estimated, we're good to go. But if let's just say it comes in at $38 million for construction costs. Now we got to go, okay, we got to look at plan B, C, or D.
So I've got a thought on that.
Mhm.
And I don't know how to do this exactly, so that's why I want to bring it up for discussion. Can we put when we put the bid out,
Mhm.
that no bids above 22 million will be accepted? You figure out how to make this work.
I would want Scott's input on that, but I would say it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. If you're gonna submit a bid for 38 million, we don't want to
Yeah,
talk to you.
don't even bother.
Yeah, don't bother.
It's a bid. I would say it's a possibility. Anyway. Yeah.
I suppose there's a possibility we're not gonna get any bids if we do that, but
Right, yeah,
but
Yeah.
you may also set the tone.
yes, or we set it at, 23 million or something, so they could be a little bit over.
Yeah,
But our professional.
And not to exceed would be.
yeah, not to exceed this amount.
Yeah,
And then you figure out how to make it work with
yeah, because see, this
plans.
this is the first time that I have done a big project under this type of public entity, prevailing wage, et cetera. Because a lot of the contracts I did over all the years, it would be with, working with your general contractor, even while you're designing it with the
Right.
architect, like
Right.
it's a design build.
Yeah.
But we're not really allowed to do design build. I think we can, but
We could have,
we
but
could have, but.
we didn't go down that path.
We didn't go down that path.
Yeah,
But I've done a number of projects, big projects for design build. Other times on some, good sized projects, it would be, cost not to exceed. Time and material cost not to exceed. And so that way, then the contractor gets well paid for everything. And if he screws up and goes over, then, he can't bill you.
It's on
for the
them,
additional on the not to exceed. But I don't think we can go down. I'm not sure, but I don't think we can go down that road as a public entity. But I think that we probably could put something in because not besides, our contract that we have that Scott has put together, I do a letter to bidders. And in that letter to bidders, you spell out a lot of things that may or may not be, specifically in the drawings or specifically in the, there. So every project that goes out to bid has a letter to bidders that I put in as much information as I can. And that would probably be the place for that, would be my guess.
Okay, well, to the extent that we can actually put it in the bid document, so again, Scott's gonna have to weigh in on that,
Right, yeah,
but I'd kind of like to set the.
yeah, because, yeah.
Don't go over this amount.
I don't-
That's all we got.
I don't like this open-ended window
Yeah.
thing of.
It's not working for us.
It's not. I agree. Yes,
Didn't work out on the last.
Sure it is.
yeah,
Didn't even close.
yeah, all right.
It worked out on our little building down there.
Yeah, they want 650,000 for it.
Well, and we'll get to that one. We've got some ideas. So, all right, so any other thing else on the master plan? Okay, well, then on to our new administration building. I brought the drawings just in case anybody wants to look at it, but as you know, it was suites B and C, a dividing wall, quite a few walls on C side, just a couple of walls on B side. And it was reducting all the air conditioning because of the new walls. It was, running some electrical, most of the electrical's there, but, it was running some electrical. It was refurbishing the bathrooms, et cetera. And it was an outrageous price. And so obviously we voted to decline all bids and, anyway, and so, Tim and I have sat and done some brainstorming because I don't think that me can legally just take this set of plans and start building it in-house because the $25,000 rule, that's
Right.
public bid, et cetera.
Don't want to see you in Lurd.
I am not.
Yes, that's right.
I am not going to jail for this project. So it's, okay, so what can we do? Well, what we can do is take our declining all bids one step further. We can cancel this project with Kern County. Just to say, we put it out to bid, the cost came in so high, we are not proceeding with the work. And then the drawings become nothing and I turn in the job card and et cetera, and we close the project with Kern County. Now, that being said, what can we do? I mean, your idea of the modular furniture is a good idea. But also Scott has allowed us to break down suites A, D, and E as separate little projects. Okay, so A is pretty much done. We're just finishing some stuff in the bathrooms. We're halfway through D. So what the thought is, okay, let's say, okay, to move accounting, we need to have suite B done. So if we were just to put the wall back that the church tore out and do a little low wall here and one low wall that doesn't go to the ceiling for just to hide their record storage. Install 2 doors and put some carpet down. Put new linoleum in the bathroom, new toilet, et cetera. And they meet 90% of the ADA accessibility requirements because those 2 picture bathrooms the church had made larger for that reason, but it was under an older code. So they basically meet, they're big enough. You can go in there with a wheelchair and wheel around and, and use that. We could do that and just say, okay, let's just do suite B. We put in that divider wall, a couple little low walls, pull some data in, put some carpet down. We could go ahead and move accounting and billing. That we get them into the building to get started to use the building. And then we could go back and maybe finish D. D was going to be education, which is at the other end of this trailer. And so that they could move. And then suite C, we could do even in 2 phases because suite and do it like you're saying with just modular furniture. Again, we could put one cross wall, which wouldn't affect the air conditioning and heating and anything, and then just use modular furniture. And we'd have to do 2 small offices for confidentiality for the managers of medical records. And so, then medical records can move down because the ones that got to move first is education. Okay, because this is, if we proceed with the project, this trailer is in phase one gone. So we would want to get that front half of C done so that, no, I'm sorry, D done, so that education could move into D. And like I said, we're already halfway there. The walls are all textured, you know, we're pulling data, we're just, you know, then we have the flooring to do, and we just finished we did of the 8 bathrooms, 6 of them with the linoleums all in and done. I held off on the 2 that were in this set of plans because I thought it was going to be part of the plans, but we can have Isabella flooring finish the last 2 sheet vinyl floors. We've already stripped them for them, prepped them, got everything ready. They just come in, lay the floor. It's $1,000 a toilet. So
Would that be under the prevailing wage because we're pulling it out of something?
it's less than $5,000, so it
Well,
doesn't have to be prevailing.
I know, we're breaking it down now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, in other words, there's a step there, it's $5,000 for maintenance repairs.
Hmm.
So for them to do a bathroom for $1,000 falls under the $5,000 rule of prevailing wage for even maintenance repairs. So,
The ductwork, there's an attic, right?
yeah,
9-foot ceilings.
it's a 10-foot T-bar ceiling, and the bottom of trusses is approximately about 12 feet up, or 13 and a half, or 10, I'm sorry, 11 and a half feet up.
Okay,
It's about 18 inches of clear space above the T-bar, but the trusses are 36 inches deep. So the ductwork actually runs kind of through the trusses and then just drops. And all that's still there. So as long as I'm not creating walls that affect the flow of the heating and air conditioning by only taking them up, you know.
well, with vents and
ways.
everything, I mean, you can make it
Yeah.
work pretty damn cheap.
Yeah, well, it works now. I mean, when we're working in one of those suites, we just turn on the thermostat and we run the heating or the air, and it's all ducted, it's all there, all the grills are in. See, I don't have to touch HVAC. With
But
this
with the
proposal.
modular walls and the shorter partitions.
Right, it just goes over the top.
So,
I did the same thing when I created my office here in the maintenance building, because it used to be medical records storage. And so we just built the walls up to 7 feet. And so the one cooler and heater, it just blows into the 3 rooms.
And that's adequate. Now.
And well, I don't know, you'd want to be in my office when it's 110 out.
It's
It's a little warm, but it basically works, yes. The unit on my building, on my end of the building is undersized because the electrical service to my building is so small that we can't put a larger unit on there that would properly cool it. We are, as part of the generator project, we have run a new conduit out. So we can run power to my building, because I would like to put air conditioning on the shop too, because the guys work in there with a swamp cooler and it's pretty muggy. And what on that subject, you know, which is another project here, but I would like to actually do a change order on that project to go ahead and get the power in so that we could put the units on my shop.
Now,
Near the end of the project.
does FEMA understand that we have a timeline? Eventually, it would, like, I know that one took 4 years or more, a little more now. Do they understand that them holding us up is taking more time?
I doubt that they know that specifically. I mean, I'm not given names at FEMA that I can talk directly to FEMA. I have to put my questions through Cal OES. But FEMA has a limit to their funding. So when we first were filling out the application, we had put in 5 years because that's kind of what I figured it's going to cost take. And so I got my response back was they don't approve any projects that are longer than 4 years. So they got a 4-year timeline. So, but also I asked the question, if we exceed the timeline, what is the process? Does it create a problem with the FEMA grant? And they said, no, as a general rule, not, because once you've been awarded and the project is under construction, they know that projects often take longer. So they said, if you're getting near the end and you need another 9 months or something, you simply write a letter explaining why, and you send it on through, and then they bless it and you get your funding. Because again, they pay us back as we pay our invoices. So in other words,
Now, what percentage again? Is it 80%?
it's about 2/3, 1/3,
Okay, 66.
roughly. Well, our portion is 9.2 million and it's 32 million project, so it's approximately 30.
Now, if it's 60 million, let's just say it comes back at 60, will they pay 2/3 of what the price is?
My response would be, I very much doubt it.
Can we cut down to fit that? If we're awarded, because there's no way in hell it's gonna be $32 million.
This project is about as bare bones as we can make it and meet the criteria of the state of California for seismic upgrade.
Right now, if you put it out to bid, it's gonna be probably 55 or 60,000, and you know that.
No, I don't disagree.
So what will we do?
Well, you want to talk about what the state's proposing?
Yes, well, that's the source of this new bill that's come out. It's AB 869, which is the Hospital Association's new attempt to try and change the seismic requirements for rural and small hospitals. And in essence, what they're basically trying to do is get legislative assistance here to create pool of money for hospitals, rural hospitals that would be in financial distress if they had to meet those requirements. So in other words, you can go in and basically say, okay, great, here's what it was going to cost us. We thought we were going to move forward with this, but all of a sudden now, because of inflationary issues and so forth, can't get this thing done. Therefore, if we had to do this through operations, it's going to create a distress on the hospital, and therefore we would have to close. And so based on that, then what they're doing is one of two things. They're extending the date that you would have to comply for at least another 5 years. And the second is that they would try to then provide monies to these hospitals to finish off some of that seismic work. We're applying for another grant through that fund.
Yeah.
It exists already.
As a reminder, I submitted a grant request through HCI for the cost of taking all the sampling. Our cost was about $220,000, give or take. We received $180,000 from that grant. I have sent in our next request, which is for how much of the 9.2 million would you be willing to give us? So, but that just went in like a few days ago, last week. So it'll be a while before we know, but I have put in for another grant. This is a new grant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
It's with the state, not with Oshkosh or with
Okay.
FEMA, right?
how would they, what's the specifics? How would they, because we're in the middle of something. We're in a weird position.
Yeah, well, there's a number of hospitals that are falling into that situation because there's a number of other rurals that have started their projects as well. And so I think this is the problem is everybody's beginning to realize this is costing a whole lot more than anybody anticipated. And so I think the state's finally waking up. Newsom came out, basically said there'd be no more hospitals closing on my watch kind of thing, primarily because of these kinds of things. And so I think they're starting to backpedal a little bit here and figure out how do we make this happen? Because one of the things that was originally in the bill was that if hospital couldn't get it done and so forth within that extra 5-year period, then the state would basically give you an indefinite waiver from meeting the seismic requirements until the state could come up with the money to do it.
Wow.
And so, which is huge, So, like I said, I think our plan has been trying to get as much done as we possibly can to at least show that we were attempting to be compliant with the requirements. And then, like I said, if we can't get that done, then we're gonna have to go back to the state and say, hey, this is,
Now,
we can't do this.
now we're seismic only. When we started,
Yeah,
was $1 million would have done what had to be done. Shear walls. That's all it was.
no,
Well, shear walls is a portion of it.
Oh,
It's also the entire roof diaphragm, drag beams, et cetera, in the
but
roof structure.
The pure
The
seismic
pure seismic,
was a lot less.
well, of course, if we could just do the pure
Well,
seismic.
no, it's not just with the funding. If it's only gonna fund the seismic part of it.
No, because the way that I presented it to FEMA is that, okay, you have to understand,
But I'm
there's,
talking now about his are they gonna just what is required because of the seismic,
Well, let me give you a better definition, because remember, there's two categories. There's SPC and NPC. The SPC is the physical structure. Is it rigid enough to withstand? The NPC is all the systems in the building. Okay, so all of our systems don't meet. Okay, so the reason that the seismic upgrade is way more than just the physical shear walls and drag beams and roof diaphragms is that the air conditioning system has to be replaced. Our air handlers are sitting on unrestrained spring isolators that in an earthquake, they just rip right off and then they're no longer functional. And the pipes break. Even in the earthquake in Ridgecrest, we had one of the lines to one of our unrestrained air handlers snap a water line. And that was the only damage we had. And luckily it just sprayed water on the roof and we got it shut off and we got it repaired. But all systems of the building fall under NPC and all of our systems do not meet.
so what I'm asking is the way we've got it drawn up, how much of it will fit into,
All of it.
okay,
Good, good.
Because of the argument of the MDC side,
And the NPC falls under the,
SB 1953.
it does?
Safety.
Okay,
so we can put it all under the
Both
same.
pieces, NPC and SPC.
Yes.
great,
Yeah, you have to meet both.
okay.
You have to be-
They shouldn't have been unfunded mandates.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we have to be a minimum of SPC 4D and we have to be NPC 5. We're done.
So when we were under the impression that the structural part was a small portion,
Oh, yeah, then it came out, I know.
it's
Yeah.
much broader than that.
It is.
Well, what I'm asking Tim is, are we gonna be misfit and halfway down the road? Are we gonna fit into what that new legislation, if they're gonna find a way to fund us, and we should get funded because
Right.
we're in need.
Absolutely. Question.
Yeah, if that passes, we fall in. Yes.
One of the things, like I said, that we were pleased because the 180,000 we got through
H guy.
H-Guy. But the guy who was approving that from was JP from, who was our
Right, he's with Cal Mortgage.
Cal Mortgage, right?
Yes.
Who knew us inside and out. I mean, because he took over when our person got promoted and so forth, and he came in under. So we've been working with JP for quite a while. So he's very familiar with our hospital. As a matter of fact, we even heard back from them because now, as all these other hospitals are starting to apply for their money, they're now reaching out to Bob, to Rainbow, trying to get them to help them get access to some of this money as well. Because they said this is the way we want all of you to submit your asks, the way Bob.
When Greenbow reached out to H guy said, if you want to know how to do these grants, get a hold of Bob Easterday. I'm just saying.
So
I got that.
now they're trying to figure out.
Got a
how to
new
do
side gig.
So anyway, so they know us real well.
Apparently, I'm the guru on putting in grant applications.
It looks like this was co-authored by Vince and Shannon.
Yeah,
too, so,
exactly. So we've got local support on this. So.
Good.
Good.
If we have to make many changes, Greenbow should do it for free, because I mean, we have thrown more money.
There you go.
Or did he have COVID or something?
I'll pass it on.
Where they're advertising. link.
Can I ask a question about the administration building?
Yes.
Do we need to complete this and shut this down and you permit
Well,
that
and
part
we
before we
didn't-
start anything
We
else?
didn't make it an action item, did we, Heidi?
No.
The plans and the permit for the admin building. But I don't think there's a rush, but I think we should make it an agenda item at the next meeting that we vote to terminate the permit with
So-
current council.
So do we need to wait?
No.
and before
No,
starting
you can
that?
do it at you can do it at the
No.
board meeting. You can do it there.
Yeah,
No, I don't mean get that approved, but do we need to wait till that's all done before you can start continuing the work you're doing?
no, because what we're doing is stuff that does not require a permit.
Okay,
There is no action, so there would be no action item.
Yeah, the only
Right.
thing I would want an action on is just that we are gonna close this, but we can do that at the board meeting or something.
Yes,
We're gonna
please.
close the permit with Kern County because we cannot afford that project. That's just step 2 of what we decided.
Do we need to have a discussion with Scott in regards?
I want to hear from Scott.
D and D.
I want him to tell me, we're not
okay.
crossing the line here.
Oh, yeah, no, we
Yeah.
want the same thing.
No, I'm good with that too.
Okay.
Yeah,
None of us wanted.
I'm only proposing, I believe Scott will be okay with it, but we wanted to bring it here and discuss it here
Yeah.
before we.
We
For
could
instance, just
consider that
adding
money.
Just doing the walls and the
Don't work out
carpeting,
right
what
to you?
number are we gonna hit? I'm sure he's gonna want to say.
Well, I have the cost for carpet per suite. I don't know exactly what it was, $4,000, I think.
Yeah.
And the cost of the wall is going to be $300 for the studs and about $200 for drywall. Just labor.
So can I ask another question about the admin building?
Mhm.
At the last meeting, we talked about this with Scott. One of the things that we talked about was being our own contractor, more or less, as a owner builder.
Mhm.
And Scott advises against that because they did it in Hesby and it didn't turn out well. But
Well,
the difference is,
there's a big difference.
yeah, a huge difference. They were trying to build a hospital.
Yeah.
We're trying to we're doing interior remodel of a little office building, and we're not gonna have nearly the number of subcontractors that you would for a hospital.
When I've talked with Scott, his big point is well, you're going to have an act contract with each subcontractor and stuff. And I'm going,
So what?
okay, so that's 5 contracts.
Yeah,
I don't see the.
I don't
challenge.
either. I don't either.
But we would have to know that we could legally do that, because again, if it falls into the prevailing wage thing. We're not set up with the Department of Relations or whatever it's called that does the DIR stuff
Okay,
for prevailing wage, because you've got to provide all this documentation. It is scrutinized. In fact, I just got a letter last week stating that some complaint against our train project for the lighting retrofit has been resolved.
oh,
These things go on for
Wow.
years.
wow,
And we had a 1.5 year long lawsuit going on over the flooring installers at the clinic.
Oh.
When we remodeled the clinic years ago. And that took 2 or 3 years before that one got finally resolved.
Okay.
And the flooring contractor who did not pay the DIR wages to the installers lost his license and is out of business
okay,
because of it.
okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it's easier said than done when the project moves to the scope where now it's got to be, DRR wages and prevailing
Well,
wages.
there's gonna be a lot of hoops to jump through with that, but is it worth it? I mean, can we actually do it? Can we hire an assistant for you to be that point person and
Well,
make that happen?
That would be a question, that we'd have to look into. The way I'm proposing it, if Scott approves, we don't even have to go down that road because
Okay.
we're under the limit.
Right,
And this, one of my guys would just put the wall in and my electrician would relocate a couple of electrical outlets into the furniture.
if Scott says it's okay to do that, that's, consistent with the law, then good, but we're still gonna get sued by JTS or one of the other bidders who didn't,
They could, but because if we legally close,
and they'll file a complaint with the labor board.
I'm not saying they can't.
Yeah,
Okay. I just, all I did was had Scott give me the verbiage to send to them.
Okay.
On exactly why and whatever. So they all got the same identical letter that Scott had me or put together for me to make sure that we are legal in declining all of the bids.
I just think it'd be. If it's
If
doable,
we
we go
want-
back out to bid on individual subcontractors.
Yeah. Possibly, but that's saying that we build it per these drawings. We're not going to do that. We're stepping way back to
All right.
saying, okay, we're not doing this project.
Okay,
We're not going to this scope.
All we're doing is putting some carpet down and setting some modular furniture in there.
and we're still okay, under the county's rules, you can still get a certificate of occupancy for what we've changed it to, or,
We're not pulling a permit with the
Okay.
current count.
all right,
We're simply occupying the building as is.
okay. All right,
Yeah, because suite A, we didn't move one wall.
Right.
We didn't do anything. Suite D, it's all those rooms are already there.
Yeah.
You know, suite E is just gonna be one big empty room where we will house these kind of meetings down there.
Right.
And we're building absolutely nothing in there other than just carpet on the floor.
Okay.
You know, there's a little bit of work related to getting suite B done. And, you know, but it's, like I said, it's a few grand. It's one cross wall and one partial and two partial height walls. That's it.
And
The
then
only thing
having,
I,
go ahead,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but just want to make sure and make the statement. My understanding is you pull electrical, you need a permit. I don't care how relevant. it is. I understand where you're going with it. I'm just making a
The-
statement.
Now, we do work in the hospital all the time. Do we sometimes relocate an outlet or two? Yes.
Yeah.
Am I gonna take and wire, set a panel and wire this whole suite? No. There's outlets are all the way around this room. And I have a drawing, because I literally put my tracer in and I traced every outlet to what breaker it goes, and that was all provided to the electrical contractor or engineer, but for this project, but we're not going with this project.
I understand.
So we're gonna-
Referring to.
Yeah, but we're gonna plug into existing. Yeah, we're gonna plug into existing electrical outlets.
Okay,
The
thank you.
circuits that are there. We're not running new stuff.
But if you're extending the wiring, it might not fit the original plans. I didn't say that.
Okay, so when you check, okay, if you're gonna move an outlet from there to there. You have to calculate the distance from the panel to that outlet. You gotta add the additional distance. And if it exceeds a certain thing on a table, you have to upsize one size on the wire. That's why they require permits, is because they want to make sure that it was done safely.
Doing the job.
Yeah.
Properly. Correct. I understand.
We're not doing anything like that.
I literally, at a previous hospital, in one of our cath labs, they wanted to move the crash cart from that wall to that wall. 10 feet. And I had an electrician there, literally relocating the outlet, literally pulling it up out of the wall, moving it over and dropping it back in. And I had Oshpod show up for looking at another job, and he walked by and he asked what that electrician was doing. And I said, he's relocating one outlet. So he went in there and he looked at it and he says, next time you'll pull a permit. That's how stringent HCI is. So. This is the world I deal with.
And luckily, these are administrative buildings. and-
Yes, they're not under HCI.
Exactly.
Extension cords.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Surge
And those
protectors.
little rubber bumper things to
Yeah.
run them in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so emergency generator. That project is slowing down dramatically because we have got most of the work that we can do done. Where the transfer switches are supposed to be here in April. Some of the switch gear is supposed to be here in April, and some of the other switch gear is supposed to be here in October. So as we get a bundle of that stuff in, they will come in, pull the wires, set that equipment, and then we'll wait until we get the next shipment. So it's like the small transfer switches are coming sooner than the large transfer switches, et cetera. So it's going well. I mean, we're basically, the billing is tapering way off. When we get to invoices, there's 2 JTS invoices, one for the emergency generator project. Boiler number 2 replacement.
Hey, Bob, a question on this, on
Yes.
the generator. So the work that's being done in the conduits that are on the roof, that's not gonna have to be redone when we redo the roof?
No, because those are going across the roof of the surgery building.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Not on the acute.
All right,
building.
so we're not gonna be doing double work.
Right.
on-
And half of what's going up into the surgery penthouse is one to service that building. But it also goes over and it goes across the bridge. If you go on the backside of the hospital, you'll now see a bridge up really high between the surgery building and the dietary building.
Oh.
So those conduits go up the wall by the ER walk-in entrance. They go across that roof and they tee and they go into that penthouse. And then they continue on and they go across the bridge and they're into the second floor of the dietary building. They've been run through that ceiling and into my mechanical rooms, and they've been over and they've been landed in the switchgear.
Okay,
This is just change things like the kitchen going on to emergency power.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And so the ones that go into the surgery building, those as part of the seismic project will be extended out of the surgery building, across the little link building and onto the roof of acute care to provide all the emergency power for the acute care or.
But that'll happen when we do that.
When we do that project.
Okay.
We're just getting it to that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so boiler number 2 replacement. I spent most of the morning with the contractors getting the boilers into the room and onto the housekeeping pads. They weigh 1,600 pounds apiece. So
I have 5 guys.
they had 6 guys and a boom lift and the super heavy duty moving dollies. And we took them off the pallets and we put them through the door and set them onto the dollies, and then we rolled the dollies around to the position, and then we used big heavy pry bars and we lifted them and slid them up. So they are now sitting on their pad. The next step is we've got to get the propane line shortened and relocated to place them in their final position and bolt them down. And then we'll start the water piping. So it's starting to move in that project. Okay, surgery, decontam room, hand wash sink. That is moving right along. We're probably about 2/3 done. I just ordered some tile. That area of that room has got that red tile like you see in our kitchen. And so we had to remove a section in order to modify the plumbing and frame the new wall and put the sink mount in. And now we're getting ready to put waterproof drywall on that and then re-tile it so the tile is all continuous. And I'll be picking that tile up shortly from Bakersfield. We'll get it tiled, we'll get the sink mounted, hook it up to the water, hook it up to the drain, and that project will be done. So it's moving right along. But that's why down the street's moving a little slower, because I got one guy working up here on that project. I only have two project guys. So NPC seismic upgrade of dietary surgery in Central, we're just leaving it on the list. It's still in OSHPD's review. In other words, Greenbow submitted our plan and we're waiting for input back from the seismic division for the NPC of the newer buildings. The dietary stove installation, they sent me the 95% completion drawings. I went through them. I made a couple of minor changes or adjustments, answered some questions for the engineers. I suspect probably by next week, those plans will be submitted to OSHPD.
Does Tiffany need to review them to make sure, are any of those?
I've reviewed what we're doing with her.
Great.
Because we're literally taking out a six burner stove and 2 steam kettles. And we're putting in, it's a little bit shorter, a 10 burner stove in place of it. The challenge is that the existing stove sits on a raised curb and this other one sits on the floor. So the longer stove it sits partly on the raised curb and partly on legs. And so the structural engineer had to get involved in how we can make that mounted so that it doesn't go anywhere. And, but yeah, she's going to be happy when we eventually someday get it done.
Yeah.
It just, everything takes so much time. All right. So let's see, skilled nursing building reclassification. So somebody before my time and probably a couple of architects ago, not Greenbow, maybe not even the company after that, but the company before that, when the submittals to OSHPD, at that time it was OSHPD, of these are our buildings. And these are the type of construction, and this is what's in the buildings, et cetera. Someone made a mistake. And so OSHPD shows our skilled nursing building as an OSHPD 1 building. OSHPD 1 building is acute care. Okay. Skilled nursing is an OSHPD 2 building classification. the challenge is you can't just call up Oshkosh and say, you know, just change it. It doesn't work that way. And if we leave it as an Oshkosh one building, we got to seismically upgrade it. And that could cost us tens of thousands of dollars.
Millions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or millions or whatever. So I approached Greenbow to give me a price, you know, to submit all the documentation to Oshkosh so that they will then agree, oh, this is a skilled nursing type 5 wood frame construction, et cetera, et cetera. It is not an Oshkosh 1 building. It is an Oshkosh 2 building. So the proposal is attached and, you know, it's just hours of providing the documentation. It's all spelled out here if you look through it. But the cost of, you know, I wish they'd do it for free, but odds have Gene ask them if they'll do it for free. The professional services is a fixed fee of $77,405, which is hugely cheaper than seismically upgrading the building.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is that we approve Greenbow to proceed with changing the classification of our skilled nursing building. And, you know, and Tim and I discussed that. We have no clue because this happened before Tim was here when these buildings got classified. So the administration at the time, the architect they had at the time, the plant operations guy in my position, you know, we don't even know who it was.
It may have been Aspen Street.
I think that was my guess. My guess is
Because I seem to-
Aspen Street.
I seem to recall they, this was years and years ago, they got sued by a couple of their hospitals that they were doing work for. So I'm just kind of putting two and two together. That could have been.
Yeah. Yeah, I've dealt with Aspen Street a few times and one of the.
And they did Tantra. Yeah.
They went, they were originally, yeah. I was involved with, don't want to admit this, but I was involved with Tehachapi Hospital's construction project, but before it became the project that went south. It was back when we were going to put the hospital, so you got Tehachapi and you got Bakersfield. And the new hospital's here. The original property they purchased and we're going to put the hospital was on this side of town. And I was involved with Aspen Street and with the hospital board because of my knowledge of hospital construction and living in Tehachapi. I was asked by the CEO to be involved with the project. And so I would go to the meetings and things and, but that project died because the floodplain down out of those mountain valleys was going to make, there had to be a bridge out over to the hospital property. It all had to be raised up and all this sort of stuff. And it drove the cost of the project to impossible numbers. So that project died. And then it eventually got built across the freeway where it currently is. But Aspen Street I was working with them back then. That was
So can
5 years ago.
we go after Aspen Street for this air and the costs of their air?
I'd have to be able to prove that they did it. That's the issue.
We'd have to prove who did the actual submission.
Correct, yeah, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, we knew because when we were looking at taking one of the wings and SNF and making it into a geriatric psych wing. We ultimately, as we were looking at the project, we just said, we can't do this because you cannot run your utilities from a type 1 building through a type 2 building and then into what would have been a type 1 space because it would have been acute, geriatric acute space. And so that killed the project because otherwise we had to run all of our utilities outside the building and around.
And the project would.
But it really was classified as a type.
Yeah, so the reality
We
is.
knew type 1 and type 2.
We could have done the project
Yeah.
if we'd have known that, well, this is before my time too.
Right.
But if that actually they classified it as a type 1 building. Now it isn't a type 1
Right.
building.
Right,
So
wasn't
there's the
It
problem.
wasn't built that way, right? It's built type 2.
But I could ask Michael from Greenbow to ask Oshkosh
Yeah.
if they have any records of who did that submission.
Where are those plans? I wonder if they've got records or could
Yeah,
find them.
well, Oshkosh has, those go back quite a ways and they might be electronic. I remember in the old days of Oshkosh, because I've been doing these projects for 40 years, they had rooms full of just stacks of plans on shelves and nobody knew where anything was.
Oh.
But I don't think it's that old. It may be electronic. And so I'm going to ask Michael if he will ask a few nice questions of who might have submitted the documentation that it's an Oshkosh 1 building.
Because that was like 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah.
90s or.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that when we changed contractors? Or North? Northridge earthquake, that was about 92, wasn't it?
92, 94.
Yeah, I think this came in a little after the new buildings were built, was when Oshpod collected all this data of the status of all the buildings in California. Because that was back when SB 1953 was first being written and passed and all of that. A friend of mine was the seismic safety officer for the state of California at the time, and he would bring me the drafts for SB 1953 and we'd read them and we'd argue about it and he'd go back up to the state. That was a long time ago.
You wonder too, was it the architecture error? Or was it a clerical error inside Osh?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt that, it never,
Yeah.
no, the clerical staff never make any mistakes. I will ask the question.
Okay.
Not ours.
Hours.
Once in my life, I won and I required an architect to pay for the change to the plans because and he had errors and omissions insurance.
Yeah,
and it
I'm
paid.
assuming they probably have an insurance
Yes,
policy. Yeah.
right. So I'm just saying is in 40 years, I've managed to get that once.
Okay.
But I don't mind asking again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So then the item you're talking about to approve is item actually G, the proposal for professional design services from Greenbow.
Yes, but I'll answer F first before we vote on G, if we want to stay in order. I have gone through the RFP and tried to make all the changes you brought up the last time. I'm still working on the two sections that talked about the construction manager handling budgetary stuff, because that really needs to, I just don't want to delete it all. I need to make sure I change it in a way that it makes sense, because that person would not be in charge of budgetary stuff. Yeah, so that is the last segment of the RFP that I'm still working on.
Okay.
But
And add in this other provision in the RFP is it shall not exceed this dollar amount.
okay.
If we can legally do that.
Actually, I believe that I was actually working on it earlier today, and if I remember right, it does talk about the estimated cost of the project. So,
Yeah, I don't want their estimate. I said, we're only gonna pay this amount.
yeah. Oh, but this RFP is for the construction manager who
Oh, okay.
has
All right, you're right.
has no control over that. But no, that's a good idea. Anyway, all right. So that's where we are at on the draft RFP. I'm almost all the way through. But legalese is not my strong suit, so I have to kind of go through it multiple times.
So G, the skilled nursing building reclassification, the proposal for the professional design services. We
Yes.
need an action on that. Does anybody else have any questions on it?
Yeah. How'd you come up with a price? I mean, what,
It is an estimate of the amount of hours they believe that will be required by them to submit all the drawings and paperwork for the request of change. He's been in contact with Oshpod, with HCI, and said, this is what we want to do. And so they've been talking, and so this is the outcome of them talking about what's going to be needed.
so we don't have to pay travel time and all kinds of extra expenses in motel for them to come and look at something.
No,
If they
because
had,
they have all my documentation, they have all my
so it'll
drawings.
be at their building.
It's their building and they will electronically submit it to Oshpod.
So it'd probably be reasonable.
I wish it could be done for less, but architects make a little more per hour than I do.
Is there another architect company that you should look at besides?
So I'll make the motion to approve this.
Well, to answer your question, to do that, we would have to write an RFP to do this project and put it out for all architectural firms in the state of California to bid against.
So it's a lot more.
Then we would have to then choose the best price, and would take us many, many, many months.
Now, this is an estimate anyway.
It
It's
is,
a fixed fee.
no, it is a fixed fee.
Okay,
Fixed fee of.
It will not exceed that.
Plus,
What- what-
it-
up
plus
to
it's
$3
stated
Reimbursable to a
Yes.
not to exceed.
Yeah, well, reimbursables, which there's, I rarely get reimbursable costs from Greenbow.
okay,
Because I don't require them to print off sets of drawings and
Okay.
send them to me. Those are reimbursables.
Yeah, they're talking about at worst to add an engineering allowance of 3,000 if necessary.
If necessary, but I don't think it'll go there. And they don't believe it will.
We're talking at $10,000.
Versus however many tens of thousands, the size of the upgrade, a building that we can't make Oshpod one anyway.
You'd think Oshpod would just accept the little sign that you made up.
Right?
Obviously, I'll second Ross.
Well, you remember how much work it made, it took me to get a few signs around the hospital and how many times I had to re-sign that.
So motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Okay,
Second.
so, for the action item on this, it was, Fred and Ross, so we need to take a vote. Right? Someone, I
Yes.
find you right here.
High five.
because- Not this man.
That one.
She
Right?
wants an iPad. She's expecting her hand.
It's the only way I get relief.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm like, do I go director? Because he was always so polite with, Director Elconin or,
Talking about me?
yes, no, you weren't always, well, you were. but He was. So Director Blythe, your vote?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Director Clark?
Yeah.
Director Elliott?
Yes.
Director Jean? Okay, and I'm a yes. He got Director Jean, because I can't ever, call him something else. Makes it easier. Okay, the invoice renewal, it is H and approval. So,
So there's a small green bow design one on the dietary stove. There's one on the patient. The patient monitors, they called me and they said they apologized. They thought they had given us the final cost, but they got two small invoices from two end engineers. And so there's a $900 invoice on patient monitors, and that project will be 100%. And then soils engineering is testing that we did on emergency generator for various things like concrete and steel, where they tested it to make sure it passed. And then the JTS one on the emergency generator is way down from what we paid previous month.
Getting a motion on all of them together.
Yeah, and then the JTS one for replacement of the boiler, which is just getting started.
You want to make the motion?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
Have at it.
We accept it the way it is.
I'll second.
Yes.
wait, I haven't said it yet. Director Blythe,
Yes.
Director Clark,
Yeah.
thank you very much. Director Elliott.
Yes.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Wow. Okay, if there's no other questions or discussion, this meeting is adjourned at 2:06. So what it says? 2:05, sorry,
Close enough.
wrong glasses. All right,
Well done.
thanks, you guys.